The CEO wasn't supposed to be there that night. Not in a half-empty diner on the edge of a highway most people forgot existed. But he saw everything. He saw a young waitress begging for one more shift. Saw a manager tear into her like she was nothing. Saw customers turn away, pretending it wasn't their problem. And then he saw something no one else noticed. A small hand, hidden behind a storage shelf, shaking, burning with fever. The waitress wasn't lazy, she wasn't irresponsible. She was hiding her sick little sister because she had no one else in the world. And when the CEO realized why she was willing to risk everything just to get shift, he understood something much worse than a bad manager was happening inside his company. And what he chose to do next would force him to question the very system he had spent his entire life building. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's story. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more emotional, dramatic, and surprising stories ahead. Be sure to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. 3 nights earlier, no one knew that diner was about to change everything. Ethan Cole sat alone in a rental car across the street, watching the flickering neon sign struggle to stay alive in the cold wind. The place was called Maple Grove Diner, but there was nothing warm or welcoming about it anymore. Half the lights inside were dim. The parking lot had more empty spaces than cars. He checked the time. 7:42. Dinner rush should have been building. It wasn't, that was the problem. Ethan leaned back in the seat, adjusting the worn jacket he had picked up earlier that afternoon from a thrift store 2 towns over. It didn't fit quite right. The sleeves were too long. The zipper stuck halfway. Good, that was the point. To anyone looking, he was just another tired man passing through. Not the CEO of a multi-million-dollar restaurant group. Not the man whose name was printed on every license and contract tied to this place. Invisible. That's how he preferred it when he wanted the truth. He stepped out into the wind and crossed the street. The bell above the diner door rang as he pushed it open, a dull, tired sound that matched everything else about the place. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee and grease that had soaked into the walls over years. A few customers sat scattered across booths, eating quietly. No energy, no conversation. Just people getting through a meal. Ethan noticed it immediately. Not the decor, not the food, the people. The staff moved fast, but not with pride, not with rhythm. It was rushed, tense, like everyone was trying not to get yelled at. That was always the first sign. He slid into a booth near the corner, choosing a seat where he could see both the counter and the kitchen entrance. Habit. Years of doing this had trained his eyes before his mind even caught up. A waitress approached him a moment later. She looked young, early 20s, maybe. Hair pulled back quickly like she hadn't had time to fix it properly. There were faint shadows under her eyes. Not from one bad night. From many. Coffee? She asked. Her voice was steady, polite, but tired. Yeah, Ethan said. Black. She nodded and turned away quickly. He watched her, not in a strange way. In a practiced way, she moved fast. Efficient. No wasted steps. She refilled drinks before people asked. Cleared plates without interrupting conversations. She handled a complaint at another table without raising her voice. Good instincts. But there was something else. Every few minutes, she glanced toward the back hallway near the storage area. Just for a second. Then she snapped back to work like nothing happened. Ethan noticed that. He always noticed patterns. The manager's voice cut through the room suddenly. Leela. The waitress froze for half a second, so that was her name. She turned, already bracing herself. A man in his late 40s stood near the register. Thick build. Shirt too tight. Face already irritated before he even spoke again. Where were you just now? He demanded loudly. I was covering table 6, Leela said quickly. They needed. I didn't ask what they needed, he snapped. I asked where you were. The room went quieter, not silent. But quieter in the way people get when they don't want to be involved. Ethan leaned back slightly, watching. Lila didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just nodded once. I was away for a minute, she said. A minute? The manager laughed. You've been disappearing all night. That's not true, she said, still calm. But her voice tightened just slightly. Wrong move. You calling me a liar now? He shot back, louder. A couple at the nearest booth exchanged a look. Someone at the counter stopped eating. Lila shook her head quickly. No, sir. I'm just saying I've been handling my tables. You think I don't see what's going on? He cut her off. You think I'm stupid? Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. This wasn't about performance. This was something else. I've been watching you, the manager continued, stepping closer. In and out of the back like you've got something more important to do than your job. Leela's face changed, just a little, but Ethan saw it. Fear. Sir, I can explain, she started. Oh, I'm sure you can. Explain it. Right here. He gestured around the diner. Tell everyone what's so important that you keep abandoning your shift. Lila hesitated, just for a second. That was enough. Ethan felt it shift in the room, that invisible tension tightening. She looked toward the back hallway again, and that's when he saw it, just for a split second. Something moved behind the half-open storage door, small, low to the ground. Ethan sat up slightly. Lila noticed his movement. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. There it was again. Fear. Not for herself. For someone else. Nothing? The manager pressed, voice rising. You've got nothing to say? I just needed a minute, she said quietly. A minute for what? He snapped. Silence. The kind that feels heavy. The manager smiled, not kindly. I'll tell you what, he said. Let's go take a look together. Lila's composure broke. Just a crack. No, she said quickly. Please, that's not necessary. Ethan's attention sharpened. That word. Please. It changed everything. The manager's smile widened. Oh, now it's necessary. He turned and started walking toward the back. Lila moved fast. Too fast. She stepped in front of him. Please, she said again. Lower now. I'll stay on the floor. I won't leave again. I promise. The room had gone completely still. Ethan felt something in his chest tighten, because now he knew. Whatever was back there was the reason she couldn't afford to lose this job, and whatever it was about to be exposed in front of everyone. The manager stopped right in front of her, looked down at her, and said, slowly, "You're fired." The words landed like a crack through the entire room. Lila didn't move, didn't breathe. For a moment she just stood there, like her body hadn't caught up to what just happened. Then she said the one thing that made Ethan sit forward. Please, I need this job. Not anger, not pride, just desperation. And in that moment, Ethan realized something with absolute clarity. This wasn't just a bad manager. This was a system that forced people like her to beg just to survive. And he still hadn't seen what she was hiding. For a few seconds, no one moved. The manager's words still hung in the air, sharp and final, like something that couldn't be taken back. Leela stood there, frozen, her hands slowly curling into fists at her sides. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. She had prepared herself for anger, for humiliation, but not for this. Not tonight, not when she needed this job more than anything. Please, she said again, quieter this time. Just let me finish my shift. I won't step away again. I promise. The manager didn't even hesitate. I said, you're done. Clock out and get out. A few customers shifted in their seats. Someone at the counter muttered under their breath, but no one stepped in. That was how it always went. People saw. People felt uncomfortable. But they didn't act. Because it wasn't their problem. Ethan felt that familiar frustration settle in his chest. He had seen this before. Different locations, different faces, same silence. Lila swallowed hard. Her eyes flicked once more toward the back hallway. That was when Ethan made a decision. He stood up. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just enough to be noticed. Excuse me, he said, his voice calm, cutting through the tension without raising it. The manager turned, annoyed. Sir, if you need something, another server can. I don't. Ethan interrupted. But I think you might. The room shifted again. Now people were watching openly. The manager's expression hardened. This is an employee matter. I suggest you stay out of it. Ethan held his gaze for a second. Then slowly he glanced toward the back hallway. I think it stopped being just an employee matter when you decided to handle it like this, he said. Lila's head snapped toward him. For a moment, something passed between them. Fear, hope, confusion. The manager stepped closer. You don't know what you're talking about. Ethan didn't argue. Instead, he walked past him, straight toward the back. No. Lila moved quickly, reaching out, but stopped herself before touching him. Please don't. That word again. Please. It wasn't about embarrassment anymore. It was something deeper. Something urgent. Ethan paused just long enough to look at her. I just want to understand, he said quietly. Then he pushed the storage door open. Smell hit first. Dust. Cardboard. Something faintly sour. And then he saw her. A small girl curled up behind a stack of supply boxes, wrapped in a thin hoodie that was clearly too big for her. Her cheeks were flushed deep red. Her breathing uneven, shallow. One hand clutched a worn stuffed animal like it was the only thing keeping her anchored. She looked up when the light shifted. Her eyes were glassy, fever bright, and afraid. Ethan felt something in his chest drop. How old is she? He asked softly without turning. 8, Lila answered behind him, her voice breaking. Her name is Mia. The manager scoffed from the doorway. This is exactly what I was talking about. She brought a sick kid into a food establishment. That's a violation on every level. Lila stepped forward now, her composure gone. I didn't have a choice, she said. Her school called this morning. She had a fever. I tried to find someone to watch her. I called 3 people. No one could come. I can't afford to miss another shift. You should have stayed home, the manager shot back. And then what? She asked, her voice shaking but rising now. I get written up again? I lose this job anyway? We don't make rent this month? Silence. That was the part people didn't like to hear, the part that made it real. Ethan crouched slightly, keeping his distance so he wouldn't scare the little girl. Mia watched him carefully, her grip tightening on the toy. It's okay, he said gently. You're safe. She didn't respond, just stared. Lila stepped beside him, instinctively placing herself between him and her sister. I was only checking on her for a few minutes at a time, she said quickly. I made sure she stayed back here. I didn't let her near the kitchen. I needed to get through today. Ethan nodded slowly. He believed her. Not because of what she said, because of how she said it. There was no excuse in her voice, no attempt to shift blame. Just truth, raw and unfiltered. Behind them, the manager crossed his arms. This conversation is over, he said. She's already been terminated. I don't care what her situation is. This is a business. Ethan stood up slowly and turned. And this, he said, gesturing lightly toward the storage room, is exactly why your business is failing. The words landed harder than anything he had said so far. The manager blinked. Excuse me? I walked in here 20 minutes ago, Ethan continued. Calm, steady. Half your tables are empty during dinner hours. Your staff is working like they're waiting to get yelled at, and now I know why. You don't have a performance problem, Ethan said, cutting him off again. You have a leadership problem. A few heads turned more sharply now. The manager's face flushed. You have no idea what you're talking about. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I have an idea, he said, and I'm about to have more than that. Leela looked at him again. Really looked this time. There was something off. Something about the way he spoke, the way he observed, the way he didn't hesitate. This wasn't just a random customer. The manager stepped closer, his tone shifting from irritation to something more aggressive. Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are, but you don't walk into my restaurant and start telling me how to run it. Ethan held his gaze. For a long second, neither of them moved. Then Ethan reached into his jacket pocket. Not quickly, not dramatically, just deliberately. Lila felt her heart start to pound, because something told her, whatever he was about to show, was going to change everything. And she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. The room felt smaller, like the air itself had tightened around everyone inside. Ethan pulled a slim leather wallet from his jacket. He didn't rush, he didn't look around for attention, but every movement carried a kind of quiet certainty that made people watch anyway. The manager crossed his arms, already preparing to dismiss whatever this was. Look, he said, irritation creeping back in. I don't have time for. Ethan flipped the wallet open and placed a card on the counter between them. Simple, clean, white. The manager barely glanced at it at first. Then his eyes dropped and stayed there. The change was instant. Color drained from his face so fast it looked unnatural. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. His posture shifted, shoulders pulling back, like someone who had just realized they were standing in front of something much bigger than they understood. No, he muttered under his breath. That's not it is, Ethan said calmly. Silence, the kind that spreads. Customers leaned in without realizing it. A server near the counter froze mid-step. Even the kitchen noise faded into the background. The manager picked up the card with shaky fingers, reading it again like it might change. Ethan Cole, Chief Executive Officer, Cole Dining Group. The name alone carried weight, not just in this diner, across the entire region. This isn't possible, the manager said, his voice lower now. You didn't. I wasn't supposed to be here. Ethan finished for him. The manager didn't answer. He didn't need to. Ethan watched him for a second. Then he took the card back, sliding it into his wallet again. You've been with this company for how long? He asked. 7 years, the manager said quickly. Too quickly, like the number might save him. And in those 7 years, Ethan continued. How many times has someone above you come here unannounced? The manager hesitated. Ethan already knew the answer. Not often, he said quietly. That's the problem. Lila stood a few feet away, still holding her sister's hand now, trying to keep Mia steady as she leaned against her. She hadn't moved since the reveal, hadn't spoken. Her mind was still catching up. CEO. The word didn't feel real in a place like this. Not in a diner where she counted tips just to make rent. Not in a moment like this. Ethan turned back toward the manager. You fired her, he said, not a question. Yes, the manager answered, though his voice had lost all its earlier confidence. She violated policy. She brought a child into. You fired her, Ethan repeated, cutting him off for trying to take care of her sister when she had no other option. That's not what. It is exactly what happened, Ethan said, still calm, but firmer now. The manager swallowed. There are rules, he said, trying to recover something. Health codes, liability. If something happens. Something already happened, Ethan said. That landed. Harder than anything else. He took a small step closer. You have employees quitting in numbers that don't make sense, he continued. You have a staff that looks like they're walking on eggshells. And now I see you handle situations like this, with public humiliation, instead of basic judgment. That's not fair, the manager said, though it sounded weaker now. You don't know everything. You're right, Ethan said. I don't. He paused, then added quietly, that's why I came. The manager said nothing. There wasn't anything left to say. Ethan turned slightly, glancing around the diner. People were still watching, some openly now, others pretending not to, but failing. This company, he said, his voice carrying just enough to be heard, was built on one idea. That if you take care of your people, they take care of everything else. He let that sit. Then he looked back at the manager. Somewhere along the way, that idea didn't make it into this building. The manager's jaw tightened. With all due respect, sir, running a place like this isn't about ideals. It's about control. If you don't enforce rules, everything falls apart. Ethan studied him for a moment, then nodded slightly. You're right about one thing, he said. Things do fall apart. Another pause, but not for the reason you think. The manager blinked. Ethan stepped back, creating space again. You're not terminated, he said suddenly. That caught everyone off guard. The manager looked up, confused. I'm not? Not yet, Ethan clarified. A flicker of relief crossed the man's face. Quick, almost hopeful. Ethan saw it, and then he continued. But as of right now, you are suspended pending a full review. The relief disappeared. What? The manager said, sharper now. You can't just I can, Ethan said simply. And I just did. The tone wasn't loud, but it was final. I'll be reviewing every complaint filed at this location, Ethan continued. Every resignation, every schedule adjustment, every write-up issued under your management. The manager's face went pale again. Because now it wasn't about this moment. It was about everything that came before it. You'll hear from HR within 24 hours, Ethan added. Until then, you'll leave the premises. That's not how this works, the manager said, though there was no real force behind it anymore. There are procedures, Ethan agreed, and we're going to follow all of them. Starting now, the manager looked around. No one was backing him up, not the staff, not the customers, no one. Because deep down, they had all seen this coming long before tonight. He grabbed his jacket without another word and walked out. The door slammed harder than it needed to. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not tense, not afraid, just uncertain. Ethan turned back toward Lila. She was still standing there, Mia leaning heavily against her side now, her small body trembling slightly. You should take her home, Ethan said gently. Lila didn't move. She started, then stopped. Her eyes searched his face, trying to understand, trying to figure out what this meant for her. For the record, Ethan added, You're not fired. That hit her harder than everything else. She let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. But, he continued, and her heart tightened again. We still need to talk. There it was. The next step. Not punishment, not dismissal, something else, something she couldn't quite define yet. Lila nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Ethan glanced once more at the storage room behind them, at the boxes, at the small space where Mia had been hiding, and something about it stayed with him. Because it wasn't just about one girl, or one bad manager. It was bigger than that. Much bigger. And as he watched Lila help her sister toward the door, one thought settled in his mind with quiet certainty. This wasn't going to end with a firing. It was just the beginning of something his company had ignored for far too long. And if he didn't get it right this time, people like her would keep falling through the cracks, one by one, without anyone noticing. Lila didn't say much on the way out. She kept one arm around Mia, holding her close as they stepped into the cold night air. The neon sign flickered above them, buzzing softly like it always had, like nothing had changed. But everything had. Her hands were shaking. Not from the cold, from everything that had just happened. CEO. The words still didn't feel real in her head. She had spent months worrying about rent, about groceries, about whether Mia's shoes would last another winter. People like him didn't exist in her world, not in a way that touched her life directly. And now he had just stood in front of her, defended her, changed everything in less than 10 minutes. That wasn't normal. That wasn't safe. Lila? She looked down. Mia's voice was weak, barely above a whisper. Are we in trouble? That question hit deeper than anything inside the diner. Lila forced a small smile, brushing hair away from her sister's forehead. Her skin was still burning. No, she said softly. We're okay. She didn't know if that was true, but Mia needed to hear it. A car pulled up slowly beside them. Ethan stepped out, closing the door behind him without slamming it. He kept a respectful distance this time. Not too close, not too far. He had learned that balance years ago. I'm not here to pressure you, he said, his voice calm, steady. I just want to make sure she gets somewhere safe tonight. Lila hesitated. Every instinct she had built over the past few years told her to be careful. People didn't help for free. Not really, not in ways that lasted. There was always a catch, always a moment later when things shifted. But Mia leaned into her again, weaker this time. That made the decision for her. There's a clinic 2 blocks from here, Lila said. They do walk-ins. I'll drive you, Ethan replied. It's close, she said quickly. We can walk. Ethan didn't argue. He just nodded once. Then I'll walk with you. That surprised her. She studied him for a second, trying to understand. Most people in his position would have left already. Made a call. Sent someone else. He didn't. He just stood there, waiting, not pushing. That was new. Lila adjusted her grip on Mia and started walking. Ethan fell into step beside them, quiet. The night air was cold, and the street was mostly empty. The kind of place people pass through, not somewhere they stayed. For a while, no one spoke. Then Ethan broke the silence. How long have you been working there? 3 months, Lila said. And before that, another diner, closed down. He nodded slightly. And your sister? He asked. How long has it just been the 2 of you? Lila hesitated. That question always came with weight. About a year, she said finally. Ethan didn't press right away. He let the silence sit again. She's 8, he said after a moment. That's young to be dealing with this. Lila let out a small breath that almost turned into a laugh. Yeah, she said. It is. There was something in her voice. Not bitterness, just truth. He glanced at her. You're her guardian? She nodded. No other family? He asked. Not that shows up when it matters, she said. That was the closest she would get to explaining. And it was enough. They reached the clinic a few minutes later. The building was small, older, with a flickering light above the entrance. Not ideal, but open. Lila pushed the door open, helping Mia inside. Ethan followed, but stayed near the entrance, giving her space as she checked in at the front desk. The receptionist barely looked up at first. Name? She asked. Mia Hart, Lila said. Insurance? Lila paused. There it was, the part she hated most. No, she said quietly. We don't have, then it's a wait, the receptionist said, already moving on to the next form. Could be a few hours. Lila's shoulders dropped just slightly. A few hours. Mia didn't have that kind of time tonight. Ethan stepped forward. She's running a high fever, he said. She needs to be seen. The receptionist looked up this time, slightly annoyed. Sir, there are people ahead of her. That's how it works. Ethan nodded once. I understand, he said. Then he reached into his pocket again. Not the business card this time. A different kind of card. He placed it gently on the counter. Then bill me, he said. The receptionist's expression changed instantly. She picked up the card, eyes scanning it quickly. Then she looked back at him. Yes, sir, she said. We'll get her in right away. Lila turned, staring at him. You didn't have to do that, she said. I know, Ethan replied. That answer threw her off more than anything else. Because there was no expectation in it. No leverage. Just a decision. Mia was taken into the back a few minutes later. Lila followed, but before the door closed, she glanced back at Ethan. Like she wasn't sure if he'd still be there when she came out. He was. He took a seat in the corner of the waiting area, leaning forward slightly, hands clasped. Not on his phone, not distracted, just waiting. Time passed slowly, 20 minutes. 30. Lila finally stepped out again, closing the door behind her quietly. Her face looked different now. Still tired, still stressed, but something had softened. She's okay, she said. Just a bad infection. They gave her something for it. Ethan nodded, a small sense of relief settling in. That's good. Lila stood there for a moment, unsure what to do next. Then she said it. Why are you doing this? Not angry, not accusing, just honest. Ethan looked at her. Really looked this time. Because that question mattered. More than anything else tonight. Because what happened back there shouldn't have happened, he said. That's not a reason, she replied. He didn't argue. He said, it's not the whole reason. A pause. Then, more quietly, I've seen what happens when people fall through the cracks, he added. And I built a company that was supposed to prevent that. Leela held his gaze. And it didn't, she said. No, Ethan admitted. That was the first time she saw it. Not just power. Not just authority. Responsibility. Real responsibility. And that made something shift inside her. Just slightly. But enough. You said we need to talk, she said. Ethan nodded. We do. Another pause. Tomorrow, he added, when things are calmer. Lila hesitated. This was the part where things usually changed, where help turned into its expectation, where offers came with conditions. Just a conversation, Ethan said, reading the hesitation in her eyes. No pressure, no obligation. She looked back toward the door where Mia was resting, then back at him. Okay, she said. Ethan stood. 2 o'clock. At the diner, she nodded. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, he said. Lila waited. Ethan looked at her, steady. You shouldn't have had to choose between your job and taking care of her, he said. The words hit deeper than she expected, because that was exactly what she had been doing, every single day, choosing between survival and everything else. Ethan left after that, just walked out into the night. No promises, no guarantees, just that one conversation waiting tomorrow. Lila stood there for a long moment after he was gone. Then she looked down at her hands, still shaking, but not the same way as before, because for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just afraid of losing everything. She was afraid of something else, of hoping, and not knowing if she could afford that either. Lila didn't sleep much that night. Mia lay curled beside her on the small bed, her breathing finally steady, the fever starting to break. Every now and then, Lila would reach over, just to check, just to make sure. It had become a habit, one she never questioned anymore. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made thoughts louder than they should be. 2 o'clock. She kept seeing it in her head, the way Ethan had said it. Calm, certain, like he already knew she would come. That unsettled her more than anything else. Because she didn't know if she would, or if she should. People like him didn't just offer conversations. Not without a reason, not without something behind it. And she had learned, the hard way, that nothing came without a cost. She turned onto her side, staring at the wall. What if this was just another version of the same thing? Different face, different tone, same outcome. Control, expectation, loss. Her chest tightened slightly. Then Mia shifted beside her, murmuring softly in her sleep. That grounded her. Everything she did came back to that. Mia. Not herself. Never just herself. Lila closed her eyes, and somewhere between fear and exhaustion, she made a decision. She would go, but she wouldn't trust it. Not yet. Morning came too fast. The sunlight through the thin curtains felt almost out of place after everything that had happened. Too normal. Too quiet. Mia was better, still weak, still pale, but sitting up, eating slowly, even managing a small smile when Lila handed her a piece of toast. I don't feel like I'm dying anymore, Mia said. Lila let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. That's a good sign, she said softly. Mia studied her for a second. You're worried, she said. Lila shook her head instinctively. I'm thinking, she corrected. That's the same thing, Mia replied. Lila almost smiled. Almost. She helped Mia settle on the couch with a blanket and the small TV remote. It wasn't much, but it was safe. For now. I'll be back in a few hours, Lila said. Call me if you need anything. I mean it. Mia nodded. I'll be okay. Lila hesitated at the door. That feeling again. Like she was stepping into something she didn't fully understand. Then she left. The diner looked different in the daylight. Less tense, less heavy. But something still lingered under the surface. People noticed her as she walked in. Not in the usual way. Not just another waitress. They were watching her, quietly, carefully, like she had become part of something bigger overnight. The assistant manager, a woman in her early 40s, approached her quickly. Lila, she said, lowering her voice. He's already here. Of course he was. He's in the back office, she added. And, just so you know, corporate called this morning. A lot of questions. Lila nodded slowly. Okay. The woman hesitated, then said more gently, you didn't do anything wrong. That mattered more than it should have. Lila gave a small nod and walked toward the office. Her hand paused on the door, 1 second, 2, then she knocked. Come in, Ethan's voice said from inside. She opened the door. He was sitting at the small desk, sleeves rolled up, a laptop open in front of him, papers spread out beside it. Not just casually looking around, working. That surprised her. He looked up when she stepped in. Thanks for coming, he said. Simple, no pressure, just that. Lila closed the door behind her and stayed standing. I said I would, she replied. Ethan nodded. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit, please. She hesitated, then sat. There was a moment of silence, not awkward, just real. Ethan studied her for a second, not in a way that felt invasive, more like he was trying to understand something he hadn't quite figured out yet. "How's your sister?" he asked. "Better," Lisa said. "The medication helped." "That's good." Another pause. Then Ethan leaned back slightly. "I'm going to be direct," he said, "because I think you'd rather have that than something polished." Leela nodded once. "Yeah." He didn't smile, just continued. "What happened yesterday wasn't an isolated incident," he said. "I've been tracking this location for a while. High turnover, repeated complaints, patterns that don't make sense if the problem is just the staff." Lila listened carefully. "You came here because of that," she said. "Yes, and you stayed because of me." Ethan held her gaze. Yes, that honesty caught her off guard, again. "I watched you work," he said. "Before everything happened, you were fast, organized, you anticipated problems before they showed up. That's not something you fake." Lila didn't react. She had learned not to. Compliments were often just setups for something else. "So what is this?" she asked. "Why am I here?" Ethan didn't rush the answer, because this part mattered. "I want to offer you a position," he said. There it was. Lila felt her chest tighten slightly. "Of course. That's not surprising," she said quietly. "But it's probably not what you think," he added. She didn't respond, just waited. "Assistant manager," he said. "Here. Full-time. Salary, benefits, health coverage." Leela stared at him. For a second it didn't register. Then it did. And something inside her dropped, not relief, not excitement. Fear, immediate, sharp. "No," she said. The word came out faster than she expected. Ethan didn't react right away. "Tell me why," he said calmly. Lila shook her head. "I can't," she said. "I can't take something like that." "Because you don't trust me?" he asked. "That part of it," she admitted. Then she leaned forward slightly, her voice tightening. "But mostly because I know what that kind of job actually means." Ethan stayed quiet, letting her speak. "It means longer hours," she continued. "It means staying late when things go wrong. It means being the one who gets called when everything falls apart." Her voice softened, but didn't lose its edge. "I don't have that kind of flexibility." She looked him straight in the eyes now. "I get my sister ready for school. I pick her up. I make sure she eats. I make sure she's okay, every day. That doesn't change just because I got a better title." The room went quiet. Ethan didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, because this wasn't a problem to solve. It was a reality to understand. "If I take that job," Lila said, her voice lower now, more honest, "something else breaks." She paused. "And I'm not letting it be her." That landed, he felt it, because she meant it, completely. There was no hesitation in her, no doubt. Just priority, Mia, always Mia. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "And what if you didn't have to choose?" he asked. Lila frowned. "That's not how things work." "Sometimes it isn't," he said. Then, after a pause, "but sometimes it's because no one ever tried to make it work differently." Leela studied him again, trying to figure out if this was real, or just another version of hope she couldn't afford. "What are you actually saying?" she asked. Ethan didn't answer right away, because now they were getting to the part that would change everything. "I'm saying," he began slowly, "that before you decide anything, there's something you need to know about your sister." Lila froze. The shift was immediate, sharp. "What does that mean?" she asked. Ethan held her gaze, carefully, because once he said it, there was no taking it back. And the truth he had just uncovered that morning was not something she was prepared for. Not even close. Lila didn't blink. For a second, it felt like the room had tilted slightly, like something underneath her feet had shifted without warning. "My sister?" Her voice was steady. Too steady. Ethan noticed that. It was the kind of calm that came right before something broke. "Yes," he said carefully. Leela leaned back slowly in her chair, her arms crossing over her chest without her realizing it. A reflex, a shield. "What about her?" she asked. There was a sharp edge under the words now. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He reached for one of the papers on the desk. Not rushed, not hesitant, just deliberate. "I had my team pull some background this morning," he said. "Not on you, on the situation." Lila's eyes narrowed. "You had someone look into me?" "No," Ethan said calmly. "I looked into what happened after your parents passed." That hit. Hard, her posture stiffened. "We didn't talk about that," she said. "I know," he replied. "But you mentioned it. Enough for me to understand there was more behind it." Lila's jaw tightened. "This isn't your business." "You're right," Ethan said. "It isn't." A pause. "Until it affects something I'm responsible for," he added. That slowed her down, just slightly. Ethan slid the paper across the desk. "I need you to look at this." Lila didn't move at first. Every instinct in her told her not to touch it, because whatever was on that page was going to change something. Still, she reached forward. Her fingers hesitated on the edge of the paper. Then she pulled it closer. Her eyes scanned the first few lines and stopped. "What is this?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "It's a medical record summary," Ethan said. "From the hospital your sister was admitted to last year." Lila shook her head immediately. "No," she said. "No, that doesn't make sense. She just had a fever. That's it." Ethan didn't interrupt. He let her keep reading, line by line, slowly. Her breathing changed first, then her expression. Confusion, then disbelief, then something else. "No," she said again. But this time it wasn't firm. It was fragile. She was diagnosed with a chronic condition, Ethan said gently. One that doesn't show up all the time. But when it does, it can escalate fast. Lila looked up at him. "You're wrong," she said. "I wish I was." Her hands tightened on the paper. "No one told me that," she said. "No one said anything like that." Ethan nodded slightly. "I believe you." Silence, heavy. Lila looked back down at the page, reading the same lines again, like they might change, like they had to. "She just gets sick sometimes," she said, quieter now, "that's all. Kids get sick." "This is more than that," Ethan said. Lila shook her head again, harder this time. "No," she said. "No, you don't understand. I've been taking care of her. Every day. I would know if something was that serious." Her voice started to crack, just slightly. "I would know," she repeated. Ethan leaned forward a little. "I think you've been doing everything you can with the information you were given," he said. That stopped her, because it wasn't an accusation. It wasn't doubt. It was understanding. And that made it harder to push away. "There's more," Ethan added quietly. Lila didn't want to hear that. She could feel it, that instinct again. The one that said, "Stop now, don't keep going." But she didn't move. "What else?" she asked. Ethan picked up another document. "This condition," he said, "requires follow-up care, regular monitoring, medication when needed." He placed it on the desk. "But your sister hasn't had any of that." Lila stared at the paper, her mind racing now, trying to piece things together. Doctor visits, missed calls, bills she couldn't pay, conversations she didn't fully understand at the time. "I thought," she started, then stopped. Her voice dropped. "I thought they said she was okay." Ethan didn't respond right away. Because this was the moment everything shifted. "They discharged her early," he said, "based on a financial assessment. That landed like a weight." Lila's head snapped up. "What?" "She qualified for limited coverage," he continued, "but not enough for long-term care. So they stabilized her and released her with recommendations that were never followed up." Lila felt something cold spread through her chest. "They didn't tell me that," she said. "They told someone," Ethan replied. A pause, just not in a way that made it clear what it meant. Lila sat there, completely still now. The room felt smaller, too quiet, like everything was closing in at once. "I've been doing everything right," she said softly. Not to him, to herself. "I kept her safe. I made sure she ate. I made sure she got to school. I stayed with her when she was sick." Her voice broke. "I didn't miss anything." Ethan's voice was steady. "You didn't fail her." That hit deeper than anything else. Because that was the fear. The one she never said out loud. That maybe she had. Lila covered her mouth for a second, trying to hold it together. "She could have gotten worse?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Ethan didn't sugarcoat it. "Yes." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "And yesterday," she said, her voice shaking now. "The fever, it could have been a warning sign," he said. Silence. Long, heavy. Lila stared at the papers in front of her. Everything she thought she understood was different now. Not gone, but incomplete, and that was worse. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked finally. Ethan held her gaze. "Because this changes the conversation," he said. She frowned slightly. "What conversation?" Ethan didn't hesitate this time. "The one about your job," he said, "and the one about your sister's future." Lila felt her chest tighten again. But this time, it wasn't just fear. It was something else, something dangerous. "Hope, what are you saying?" she asked. Ethan leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "I'm saying you don't just need a job," he said. "You need support." The word hung there, different from everything she had heard before. Not charity, not pity. Support. Real, structured, possible. "And I can provide that," he added. Lila stared at him, trying to understand what that actually meant. Because if it was real, it would change everything. Not just for her, for Mia, for their future. But if it wasn't, it would break something she didn't know how to rebuild. "What kind of support?" she asked slowly. Ethan didn't answer right away. Because this was the moment. The one that would define everything that came next. The kind, he said carefully, that doesn't disappear when things get hard. Lila's breath caught slightly. Because that was exactly what she had never had. And exactly what she didn't know how to trust. She looked down at the papers again. Then back at him. And for the first time, she didn't just feel afraid. She felt like she was standing at the edge of something. Something bigger than anything she had ever known, and she had no idea if stepping forward would save them, or destroy everything she had built to survive. Lila didn't answer right away. She sat there, staring at the papers, but not really seeing them anymore. Her mind had gone somewhere else. Back through the past year, every decision, every moment she thought she was doing the right thing. Every time Mia got sick, and she told herself it was just temporary, manageable, normal. Her fingers tightened slightly against the edge of the desk. "You were asking me to trust you," she said quietly. Ethan didn't interrupt. "And everything in my life has taught me not to do that," she added. There was no anger in her voice, just honesty. The kind that didn't try to impress. It didn't try to protect. It just was. Ethan nodded once. "That makes sense," he said. Lila looked up, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. "You're not going to argue?" she asked. "No." That threw her off. "I don't expect you to trust me right away," he continued. "You shouldn't. Not based on one conversation." That made something shift, because most people would have pushed harder, sold it, promised things. He didn't. "So what are you asking?" she said. Ethan leaned back slightly, giving her space again. "I'm asking you to consider something practical," he said. "Not emotional, not abstract." Lila listened. "Your sister needs consistent medical care," he continued. "That's not optional anymore. And right now, you don't have access to that." Her jaw tightened slightly, because that part was true. "And I can change that," he said. There it was again, that line. The one that sounded too big, too simple, too dangerous. "How?" she asked. Ethan didn't hesitate. "Full health coverage," he said. "Through the company, immediate access, pediatric specialists, regular monitoring, medication when needed." Lila blinked. It was too much, too fast. That's not something you just offer," she said. "It is if you're the one who decides what the company offers," Ethan replied. Simple, matter of fact, like it wasn't extraordinary at all. Lila shook her head slightly. "And what do you get out of it?" she asked. There it was, the real question, the one that always mattered. Ethan held her gaze. "A better company," he said. She frowned. "That's it?" "No," he admitted. A pause. "I also get to fix something I should have noticed sooner." That landed differently, because it wasn't about her anymore. It was about responsibility. Again, and that made it harder to dismiss. Lila looked down for a moment, then back up. "And the job?" she asked. "You still expect me to take it?" "I'm offering it," Ethan said. "Not forcing it." "That's not the same thing." "I know." Silence settled between them again, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had weight, choice. Lila leaned back slightly, her mind racing now. She could see it, the possibility. Mia getting real care. Not just reacting when things went wrong, actually staying ahead of it, actually being safe. But the cost wasn't clear yet, and that scared her more than anything. "I've built something," she said slowly. "It's not much, but it's stable." Ethan listened. "If I step into your world," she continued, "I don't know what happens to that." "You mean you don't know if it disappears?" he said. She nodded. "Yeah." Ethan considered that for a moment. Then he said something she didn't expect. "Then don't step into my world." Lila blinked. "What?" "Don't change everything at once," he clarified. "Keep your structure, keep your priorities." He leaned forward slightly. "Build around them." That made her pause, because no one had ever said it like that. It was always one or the other. Survive or grow, not both. "You think that's possible?" she asked. "I think it has to be," Ethan said. There was something steady in his voice. Not optimism, not idealism, just belief. And that was harder to argue with. Lila looked at the papers again, then at him. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "and something goes wrong." Ethan didn't let her finish. "Then we fix it," he said. She frowned. "It's not always that simple." "No," he agreed. "But it's better than facing it alone." That hit, because that was exactly what she had been doing. Alone. For so long that she didn't even think of it as something that could change. Lila looked away for a moment, her eyes drifting toward the small office window. Then she said something quieter, more honest. "I don't know how to rely on someone else." Ethan didn't try to correct her. "That's okay," he said. She looked back at him. "Is it?" "Yes," he said. "Because we're not starting there." A pause. "We're starting with something simple," he added. Lila waited. Ethan picked up one of the documents again. "This," he said, tapping it lightly, "is the immediate priority. Getting your sister the care she needs." Lila nodded slowly. That part, she understood. "No job decisions today," he continued. "No long-term commitments. Just this." That made it easier. "Not safe, but possible." "And after that?" she asked. Ethan held her gaze. "After that," he said, "you decide what comes next." Lila studied him for a long moment, looking for something. A crack. A sign that this was just another version of something she couldn't trust. She didn't find it. Not yet. But that didn't mean it wasn't there. Still, Mia. That thought cut through everything else. Her sister, her future, her health. That mattered more than anything else. Lila exhaled slowly, then nodded. Okay, she said. The word felt heavier than it should have. It was real. Ethan didn't smile, didn't react much at all, just nodded once. Okay. But as Lila stood to leave, something still sat in the back of her mind. A quiet question she couldn't shake. Because everything he had said made sense, Bence. Everything he had offered felt real. And that was exactly why it scared her. Because for the first time, she wasn't just risking losing something. She was risking believing in something. And she didn't know which one would hurt more. As she reached for the door, Ethan's voice stopped her. There's one more thing, he said. Lila turned back, her heart tightening again, because she had learned something already. With him, there was always more. Ethan looked at her, his expression more serious now. The reason your sister's case came up so quickly, he said, is because it was already flagged. Lila frowned. Flagged by who? Ethan didn't look away. Someone inside my company. The words hung in the air. And suddenly this wasn't just about a broken system anymore. It was about someone who had seen it, known about it, and done nothing. Lila felt that shift again, that deeper tension. Because now this wasn't just a chance. It was something else entirely. And she had no idea who she was really dealing with. Lila didn't leave right away. Her hand stayed on the door, but she didn't open it. The words kept echoing in her head. Someone inside my company. She turned back slowly. What does that mean? She asked. Her voice wasn't shaky this time. It was sharp, focused, because this part mattered in a different way. Ethan didn't sit back. He stayed exactly where he was, watching her carefully. It means your sister's case wasn't random, he said. It was flagged as a liability risk tied to one of our locations. Lila frowned. Don't understand. Ethan nodded. Most people wouldn't, he said, because it wasn't explained in a way that anyone outside the system would recognize. He pushed a folder slightly closer to her. This is internal, he added. It's not something you were ever meant to see. Lila stepped back toward the desk, slowly, cautiously. She didn't sit this time. She just stood there, looking down at the folder like it might bite her. What is it? She asked. Ethan exhaled once. It's a report, he said. From our regional compliance team. Lila's eyes flicked up. About what? Ethan didn't look away. About employee risk exposure, he said. That didn't sound right. Not in a way that made sense. Lila opened the folder. Her eyes scanned quickly this time. Not like before, faster, more defensive. Then she slowed down. Because certain words stood out. Medical, dependent, absence patterns, liability. Her stomach tightened. This is about me, she said. Yes, and Mia, yes. Lila's grip on the folder tightened. They were tracking us? She asked. Not you specifically, Ethan said. At least not at first. That didn't make it better, he continued. They track patterns, he explained. Employees with dependents. Medical issues. Increased absence risk. Higher turnover probability. Lila let out a short, disbelieving breath. So what? She said. We're just numbers? Ethan didn't sugarcoat it. In reports like this, yes, the honesty hit again. Hard. But this time, it didn't calm her. It made something rise inside her. Anger. So someone knew, she said. Someone saw this and just let it happen. Ethan nodded once. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Lila looked back at the page. Her chest felt tight now. Because this wasn't just about her missing information. This was about someone having it. And choosing not to act. They knew she needed help, she said, her voice lower now. And they didn't say anything. They flagged it, Ethan said. But the system isn't designed to help. It's designed to manage risk. That word again. Risk. Like Mia was a problem to be calculated, not a child. Lila closed the folder slowly. Her hands were steady, but her eyes weren't. That's not management, she said quietly. That's neglect. Ethan didn't argue. Yep, said. It is. The room went quiet again. But this silence felt different. Heavier. Because now there was something else between them. Not just need. Not just opportunity, accountability. And Lila was starting to see it clearly. This is your company, she said. Not accusing, just stating a fact. Ethan nodded. It is, and this happened inside it. Yes. Lila held his gaze. So why should I believe anything changes now? There it was. The real question. Not about the job, not about the offer, about trust. About whether any of this meant something or nothing. Ethan leaned forward slightly. Because now I know, he said. That's not enough, she replied. I know. A pause. Which is why I'm not asking you to believe it. He. Yad. Lila frowned. Ethan's voice stayed steady. I'm asking you to watch what happens next. That made her hesitate, because it wasn't a promise. It was something else. A watch? She said yes, he said. Watch how I handle this. Watch what changes. Watch whether it's real. Leela crossed her arms slightly, and if it's not, then you walk away, Ethan said. No hesitation, no conditions. Just that caught her off guard. Again. You'd let me? She asked. Yes. The answer came too easily, which made it feel more real. Lila looked down at the folder again, then back at him. And the person who flagged this? She asked. Do you know who it is? Ethan's expression shifted slightly, just enough. Not yet, he said, but you think it matters. I know it does, he replied. A pause. Because someone saw this and chose not to act. That's not just a system failure. That's a person making a decision. Lila felt that settle in, because she understood that. People didn't just disappear into systems. They made choices. And those choices affected real lives, like hers, like Mia's. What are you going to do? She asked. Ethan didn't look away. I'm going to find out who made that decision, he said. And then? His voice didn't change. And then I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Lila studied him, trying to decide if that was enough, if anything could be enough, because part of her still wanted to walk away, to keep things simple, to stay in the world she understood, even if it was harder, even if it meant surviving instead of living. But then she thought about Mia, about the papers, about what she had just learned, and suddenly walking away didn't feel simple anymore. It felt like a risk she couldn't afford. Leela exhaled slowly. Okay, she said. The word felt different this time, less uncertain, more deliberate. Ethan nodded once. Okay. But before she turned to leave again, Lila stopped. One more question, she said. Ethan waited. What if this isn't just one person? She asked. Her eyes locked onto his. What if it's more than that? Ethan didn't answer right away, because he had already thought about it, and the truth was, it probably was. More than one person, more than one decision, more than one failure. And that meant what came next was going to be bigger than either of them expected. Ethan met her gaze. Then we fix more than one thing, he said. Simple, direct. But Lila could see it now. This wasn't just about her anymore, or Mia, or one diner. It was something deeper, something buried. And if they pulled on it, there was no telling how far it would go. As she walked out of the office, one thought stayed with her. This wasn't just a second chance. It was the start of something else. Something that could change everything. Or break it completely. And she was already in it, whether she wanted to be or not. The meeting didn't happen the next day, or the day after. It took a week, a full week of calls, reports, quiet investigations, and something deeper moving behind the scenes that Lila couldn't see, but could feel. Things changed fast at the diner. The assistant manager was officially promoted. New policies were posted, schedules were adjusted. People started talking again, not in whispers, out loud, like something had lifted. Lila came back to work 3 days later, not as a manager, not yet, just as herself. But it felt different. People looked at her differently, not with pity, not with distance, with something closer to respect, because they had seen what happened and what followed. But the real change didn't happen there. It happened at the hospital. Mia was admitted for full evaluation 2 days after that conversation. No waiting list, no confusion, no paperwork delays. Everything moved quickly, too quickly for Lila to fully process. Specialists came in. Tests were done. A clear plan was built. And for the first time since their parents were gone, Leela wasn't guessing anymore. She knew. She knew what Mia had. She knew what to watch for. She knew what to do next. That alone changed everything. But the moment that stayed with her was much quieter. It happened late one night. Mia was asleep, her breathing soft and steady under the dim hospital light. The machines beside her hummed quietly, not alarming, just there. Lisa sat beside the bed, her hand resting lightly over Mia's. Not checking, not worrying, just there. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what might happen next. Ethan stood in the doorway. He didn't step in right away. He just watched. Because moments like this didn't belong to him. They never had. Lila noticed him after a few seconds. She didn't seem surprised. You did this, she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. No, he said. You did. You just didn't have the system behind you. That landed differently now, because she understood what he meant. This wasn't about saving her. It was about removing what had been in her way. She looked back at Mia, then at him. They said we caught it early enough, she said, that if we stay on top of it, she'll be okay. Ethan nodded. That's good. Lila studied him for a moment, then asked the question she had been holding on to all week. Did you find out who flagged it? Ethan exhaled slowly. Yes, she waited. It was someone in compliance, he said. Mid-level, not malicious, just following protocol. Lila frowned slightly. That's it? That's how it starts, Ethan said. A pause. They saw a risk, they documented it, and then they moved on. Lila looked down. That's not enough, she said. No, Ethan agreed. It's not. Another silence. But this one felt clearer. What happened to them? She asked. They're still with the company, Ethan said. But not in the same role. Lila raised an eyebrow slightly. That sounds like a soft answer. Ethan met her gaze. I didn't fire them, he said, because the problem wasn't just them. That made her pause. I changed the system they were working in, he continued. So the next time someone sees something like this, they can't just document it. A beat. They have to act. Lila let that settle, because that mattered, not punishment. Change, real change. The others, she asked. The ones who knew. Ethan didn't hesitate. They're gone. Simple. Final. Lila nodded slowly. Then she looked back at Mia again, her hand tightening just slightly. You said I should watch what happens next, she said. I did. She glanced at him. I have been. Ethan didn't respond. Because this part was hers, Lila stood up slowly, took a step toward him. Not hesitant this time, not uncertain. Just steady. I'll take the job, she said. The words were calm, clear, no rush, no fear behind them. Ethan nodded once. Okay, but not the way you offered it before, she added. That caught his attention. What do you mean? Lila held his gaze. I'm not stepping into something that breaks what I've built, she said. I need structure, boundaries, flexibility. She gestured lightly toward the room. I need to be here when she needs me. Ethan didn't interrupt. He just listened. I don't need a title, she continued. I need something that works. A pause. For both of us. Ethan nodded again. That's exactly what we'll build. And this time it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a plan. Months passed. Not perfectly, not easily, but steadily. Lila learned fast. Not just how to manage a restaurant, but how to lead people. And she did it differently. She paid attention to things others missed, to small signs, to quiet struggles, because she knew what those looked like, because she had lived them. Mia got stronger, not overnight, but day by day. Routine replaced fear, checkups replaced uncertainty, and laughter came back, slowly, then all at once. The diner changed too. Turnover dropped. People stayed, not because they had to, because they wanted to, because something felt different, safer, human, and Ethan, he didn't step away. But he didn't take over either. He watched, he adjusted, he learned. Because this wasn't just about fixing one place. It was about understanding what had been broken for a long time, and choosing to do something about it. One night, months later, Lila locked up the diner and stepped outside. The air was cool, quiet. Mia waited by the car, swinging her legs slightly, a small smile on her face. Are we getting ice cream, she asked. Lila smiled. Yeah, she said. We are. Mia nodded, satisfied, like that was all she needed to know. Lila looked back at the diner one more time. The lights, the windows, the place that almost broke everything, and then didn't, because someone chose to look closer, because someone chose to care, and because she chose to say yes. Not to a person, not to a job, but to the possibility that things could be better. For her, for Mia, for people like them. She got into the car, closed the door, and for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like something she had to survive. It felt like something she could actually build. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to share what you would have done in her place. And if you believe one decision can change a life, stay with us for more stories that remind us why that still matters.